welcome everybody to another episode of Stoli Doli Scaries.
I'm your host, John Ritchie Jr.
And I'm your host, Corinne. And today we will be discussing the ultimate love story of all time. Chucky and Tiffany, we're watching Bride of Chucky.
Where Chucky gets lucky.
They put so much thought into that one. And Johnny gets his first time watcher badge. Right?
No, this is my first time watching. This is, I find with all of these, I still am just rewatching from like days of old for me. So I probably saw this when it came out. Maybe
What?
in the theaters. Yeah, at 11 or however old I was.
Oh, I always think you're not my age.
No.
You're a wee bit older than me.
Well, we could pretend. That would be wonderful.
This is I think this is the best in the Chucky series. This is my favorite movie. This is also the Chucky movie with the biggest budget, and I think that probably went to Jennifer Tilly's salary, hopefully, because she carried this movie on her back. She is the reason I like it so much.
I mean, it's called The Bride of Chucky for a reason. Mm-hmm. She is highlighted.
Indeed. She should be.
As she should be. She's fantastic. I wouldn't say that this is my favorite in the franchise, whatever you want to call it. I know that there's the 1, 2, 3 punch, right?
Sure.
From those, and those are like embedded into my brain and into the culture and fabric of me. And then, I don't know how, but 11, this might have been a thing, and I don't know the ones that came after this. I may or may not have seen.
Chucky. I've never seen Seed of Chucky, and I hear that's like the best one, or like one of the best ones is Seed of Chucky. Have you seen that one?
I can't remember, honestly. But also in the new era of all of these, didn't all of them have like nothing to do with each other, or like tried to keep recreating themselves?
I don't know. I know I haven't watched the series. Have you watched the series at all?
1, 2, and 3?
No, the TV show.
No.
I've heard really good things about the TV show.
I've also heard good things.
It's made me ultra curious because it's just not something. Look, Chucky is not something I gravitate towards, and I think the reason and we'll get into it, but the reason I love this movie is because they lean so deeply into the silliness of it and the campiness of it, the writing, everything about it. Like they're almost making fun of themselves, and it's funny, and I love it because the original. Don't get me wrong. There were some spooky parts in the original, but there's only so scary he can be. You could kick him. There's only so much you can do with him. And so the fact that they kind of threw that away and made it, there are some like jarring parts in this film, but the fact that they leaned so deeply into the humor, it makes me just love it. I mean, plus Jennifer Tilly, really just Jennifer Tilly, but.
I think it's always challenging for me to go into a watch of something, or even a rewatch in this case, many years later. And, it's almost like I want to expect it to be a traditional horror. And by that, I mean, like, I want to be scared by a horror movie. Sure. That's the reason why I watch them. So when something is on the nose funny, or like supposed to be comedic, right? Yeah. Sometimes I struggle with it. I'm like, why am I wasting my time? Because I'm not here to laugh. I'm here to like maybe I want to be like under the covers. I want to be like, what is like this concept is so terrifying that like it's real to me.
Yeah.
And this is not one of those movies, but killing happens in it, and so we can.
There are, I mean, some of the kills are like, oh, like some of the kills are pretty bad. Nothing to scare you. This is not a scary movie. But after The Shining, which is so heavy and deep and long, I thought we deserved a little levity.
Let's lift up the girls. Let's lift them up. It is 2024.
All right. Well, today's cocktail is going to be obviously the heart of Damballa, and we will be taking a sip anytime marriage, weddings, bride, anything to do with those things are spoken about. You can find the entire recipe on our Instagram at SolidoliScaries. Okay, Bride of Chucky was released in theaters October 16th, 1998, starring Miss Jennifer Tilly, Brad Dourif, Katherine
Mhm.
Heigl, and Nick Stabil. I think it's Stabil. Uh, it starts out very dramatic music. It's storming, it's thundering. We see a cop enter an evidence room. And as he's walking in, we see, I do like this. They have like a callback. They have like the Jason mask and they have Michael Myers mask. They have like
They
other
do a
little,
Michael Myers. There's a chainsaw.
yeah, they have like little callbacks to other like 70s, 80s horror movies. The cop pulls a trash bag out of a locked locker, gets in his car, and while driving, he gets a phone call from a woman. We don't know who. He confirms with her that he's got the goods and is on his way. And don't forget his money. We see him sitting in a warehouse in his car, and he gets curious. He peeks over to open up the trash bag to see what's inside. And while doing so, someone reaches into the car, pulls his head back, and slits his throat. Dun dun dun. Which I do love this effect because he's looking in the bag and we're expecting something to pop out of the bag. And so I love that they just diverted our expectations and just like, whap, whap. So that happens. He's dead. We see patent leather heels walk around the car to the other side, and we are introduced to the one and only Tiffany Valentine, played by Miss Jennifer Tilly, my personal hero. She proceeds to file her nails with the weapon that she just used to kill the man. She reaches into the car to grab Chucky, in the meantime, taking his lighter and cool. I just, I don't know why it's one of my favorite. It was just like, you just killed somebody. Like, cool.
You have to get real breathy with it and
I'm
real.
really hoping you can pull off her accent. I can do Chucky pretty well. I've done some practices about Chucky's, but Jennifer Tilly, she's so hard. She's so like breathy and like graspy. Nobody can do her but her.
Yeah. The setup to this, it has the perfect amount of things that lets me know that this is not supposed to be great as a film, or it's a comedy right off the bat. Whether it's like
Yeah.
just like the words on the screen, the opening, and also from the 90s.
It's so 90s. It's so 90s. And you know what? The first time I watched this, I just threw it on. I had zero expectations of what it was going to be, but I never thought it was going to scare me because that's just not Chucky's MO. Chucky is like funny and like we'll get some good murders always, but it, you know what? No, that's not true. Child's Play did scare me. The scene where he kills the babysitter or the woman watching
Yes.
with the fucking hammer, that was
Yeah,
pretty dark. Me no like that. That did
I
scare
loved it.
me, but we're past. That was the 80s. We in the 90s. We've seen some shit. This is like potatoes, and so they had to come at it from a different angle. They could not scare people with the doll anymore. They had to come at it with like a humorous angle, and they succeed right from the get go. So she finds a lighter. Cool. She picks up the trash bag. She takes our old pal Chucky out. He's seen better days. He's mangled. He's in parts. And she walks away with him to the tune of Rob Zombie's Living Dead Girl, which is such a good song. And she just like sways away in her patent leather heels and tights. She's fabulous. So she takes Chucky back to her trailer, which inexplicably is filled with doll parts. I don't know why. We get a montage of her putting him back together, sewing him, putting in eyes, just fixing him. And then she stands back and admires her work as Chucky is albeit like a little messed up. He's got some stitches. He ain't
Some
what he used to be.
stitchies.
But she has put him back together, and she just stands back and looks at her beautiful work.
It's beautifully imperfect how she puts this doll together. But surely she could have done a better job, right?
I think it was meant to be messy. Maybe Tiffany's got
But Tiffany cares so much about her looks.
she cares about her looks.
Yeah.
But she loves Chucky. She's in love with Charles Lee Ray. So I think she puts him back together as best she can because she wants his soul to come back. I don't think
Yeah.
she really cares about his looks.
And that's where we get the like sort of newspaper clippings that sort of brings us along the story.
Yeah.
I did hear too that Jennifer Tilly really was interested in being a part of the early talks and like the filming for I think the filming for her was only 2 weeks, like actual filming, and then the rest is voiceover work.
Mm-hmm.
But I heard that she was really involved in like while she was on set in really understanding Tiffany and making sure that she was doing it justice and really wanted to know the character, asking a lot of questions. She sounded pretty badass.
I love that for her. And I mean,
I
she's been
mean,
with the franchise. She's in the series. She is a forever member of the Child's Play series. It would be
she's
nothing without
wonderful.
her. So she stands back and looks at her work, loves it. We cut to a gorgeous, giant mansion. We see a boy walk up to the house in a tux with a corsage, and a man in a police uniform opens the door. Warren, who is played by John Ritter. They have a little chit chat. It's pretty clear that this man is gay. I think like they try to do all the tropes, like he's majoring in theater arts, and he has a figure skating scholarship, and he has frosted tips, and he knows a lot about the orchid corsage that he is giving Jade and how to take care of it. And I think they're trying to overtly be like, this is not her actual date, in my opinion. You can have a different opinion.
He does have the old in sync blonde tips, which kind of is a dead giveaway. However, let's
Honestly,
not
I think
get
that's the last. Like, I think there are other things. The flower. I'll say that. I think the flower instructions, the frosted
don't
tips
do
were
that.
very in.
Don't do that. Are you saying all florists are gay? Are we going to go there?
It's the way he gives the instructions.
You put it in a vase and drop an aspirin in the water. It should last you the whole week.
He is not into Katherine Heigl. He is not sexually interested in her. So Jade is called down. We meet Katherine Heigl, who plays Jade, his niece, and we can tell right away that Warren and Jade do not have a very loving relationship. They're at odds with one another. Her parents passed away. He's her guardian, and he's very strict, obviously. So she goes and she gets in his car, and as they drive away, bingo, hot dude pops up in the back named Jesse. They're actually dating. It was all a ruse, just like we thought. Frosted Tips was just just a friend, nothing more. She climbs in the back. They start making out. And as this is happening, we see like whoop, whoop, whoop. Cop lights in the background, pulling him over. They know immediately it's Needle Nose, which is just the worst possible fucking nickname you could ever have. And he is a minion of Warren who kind of does his bidding, and he pays him on the side to do his extra shit. We cut back to old Tiff at her trailer. She has set up a ritual to bring Mr. Chucky back to life. She's got a pentagram on the floor. She is reading Voodoo for Dummies. She is
This is amazing.
Isn't that fun? I was
It's
really
so
excited
good.
to find it. Etsy, shout out.
Shout
So she is reading Voodoo for Dummies. She is bringing this boy back to life. So she starts doing her chant. Ade due dambula, give me the power, I beg of you. Abe due dambula, awake! 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 He doesn't wake up. Fucked up. It says she throws the book, says, what a crock. It's a real bummer. She worked real hard to set that all up. Poor Tiff. So she's bummed. She's smoking a cig, obviously. She gets
we need to pause and just say that this trailer is sexy.
Very. This is a cool trailer. She has a clawfoot tub. We will see later on.
Yeah. I mean, the dolls is a little weird, but
Dolls are, it's very, you know.
It's goth.
It's very on trend for her.
Trending.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's got a lot of space in there.
A lot of space and just cutely decorated. And what does she do for a living? We never know.
Kills people. She kills them and takes their money. Like, I mean, what else is she doing?
I guess that's true. That's
She's a serial killer.
So it doesn't work. Chucky doesn't wake up. She's bummed. She's smoking her cigarette. She gets out. Boop, boop, boop. Knock at the door. It is Damien, who seems to be someone she's dating or maybe talking to.
More so than Damien as a character, this is the iconic Alexis Arquette.
Yes. Yeah. And fun fact that this role was actually based off of Marilyn Manson, and he was in talks to actually play the role. And as great as Alexis is, I would have been really curious to see him play this role.
I wrote in my notes, it looks like one of Marilyn Manson's band members. Like,
yeah. So
fitting.
after I found that out, I don't know. I went on a deep Marilyn Manson dive. Did you ever see Jawbreaker?
No, I don't believe I have. And I think that's one of the movies that I'm like sad that I haven't watched up until this point.
You have to. You know what? There are some dark moments. I mean, it's a horror film. I don't go near there's some very scary moments. But he plays a really key role, but he's not in his like makeup or any of the things. And he was dating Rose McGowan during that time. And I guess that's probably why. But like he plays this role. He plays somebody. It's a very minuscule like cameo role, but it's a very important role. And I never knew it was him. And once I looked into it and I was like, oh my God, this would have been so interesting if he played this role. It would have been really different. I think Alexis Arquette really played into like the silliness and weirdness of it, and I don't know if he would have done that. Probably not. But
after knowing
totally see that it was
after knowing Manson now, probably not.
No.
I don't know how much of a sense of humor that man has, but
were you ever into? I mean, I know you had your stages, but were you ever into his?
I got into some dark stuff, but I wasn't a stan. I was a fan because I thought that the music was good. Like that was like TRL days. Ooh. Manson was on, and like the videos were cool and like freaky and weird, and I was just like, oh, this is interesting. And honestly, doesn't have a bad voice. I thought the music was like, for the time, like what it was bumping. And then they did like a cover of like Blue Monday or something, and I was obsessed.
He's done a few things. The Beautiful People song, like he's done a few things that I've been like very into, and I've been like, But like a part of me, when I was a kid, we were so scared of him, and then there was the whole rumor that he took out his ribs, and it's like like there was so much folklore about Marilyn Manson as a child that I like kind of gravitated away from him. But it's just, he's a very interesting human being. Okay, so she gets a knock on the door. It's Damien. He's extremely goth. I mean, they couldn't make it more goth. He's in like black leather. Got the lip ring, the eyeliner. Like it is quintessential 90s goth here. He's clearly trying to impress her. He shows her a picture of somebody that he supposedly murdered, and she looks at it, and at first she's really excited, like, wow, you really messed this guy up. What'd you do to him? And he's like, yeah, blah, blah. And then she notices that the picture has his hands in it, which are painted their black fingernails because he's goth. And so she immediately recognizes his hands and she says, "This is you. You couldn't kill anybody. You're just a pathetic worm. You didn't do this." And he is very like sad and sullen. He's like, "Oh, I'm working up to it, Tiffany. I'm gonna get there." It's very sad. And just Tiffany has a type. It's murderer, and it's not this little goth kid. It's not it. So
Yeah, I think it's funny the fact that they are talking about like killing people as if it's like, I'm going to my 9 to 5 today. Like it's comedy.
It's like it's silly. I mean, because she clearly thinks that way because she's been idolizing Chucky, Charles Lee Ray, for all these years, and she's been clearly seeking out somebody that can fill that role, which is not this dude. It's not this dude, and it's sad that he is so desperately trying to be what she wants, and just, he ain't it.
He ain't it.
So she makes him feel like poopy. She walks away from him, and she realizes Chucky is no longer on the floor where she did the ritual. He has gotten up. Just a side note, I don't know how her trailer hasn't caught fire with all these fucking candles. It made me very, very, very nervous. But no worries, I guess, in Tiffany's trailer. Suddenly the power goes out. She's kind of like subtly looking for Chucky, like kind of looking under things. She's not really paying attention to anything fucking Damien is saying, but he is subtly trying to seduce her. He goes over and crawls on her bed and says, "How long we been going out? Don't you think you've been keeping me waiting long enough?" And she barely looks at him and is like, "No." That's one of my favorite parts. She just doesn't give a shit. And she's continuing to look for Chucky, and he just keeps, yabbering on. And he says, "You know what the French call an orgasm? Le petit morte, the little death." Tiffany can do better. I don't. I'm. This is painful. This scene to me, him trying to seduce her, is like, oh, it's really uncomfortable to me. He is undeterred by her disgust towards him. He crawls under the sheets and says, "Come on, Tiffany, let's die a little." And I do appreciate that he's persistent. That's something. That's something. Not to Tiffany, though. She is kind of looking over at him, and then boom, suddenly Chucky is next to her. She lets out a little scream. Damien comes over to see, what's going on, and he looks at him. He kind of makes fun of Chucky, hits him in the face, humps him a little, and then throws him. Tiffany's like, "Damien, do you want to play?" And he's like, "Yeah." So she takes old Damien and she handcuffs him to her bed. She takes the Chucky doll and she sits him on top of Damien's chest. And she puts on a little hot, sexy blue corset. She does a little dance for him. And as she's dancing, she tells him about how she was dating Charles Lee Ray. They lived together for years before he was killed, before his soul was passed on to that Chucky doll that's sitting on you right now. And how he was so jealous and how he would take care of anybody that even looked at her and how he was the best lover she ever had. And Damien cuts in and says, "Oh, come on, baby. He ain't big enough to take care of a woman like you." Which, it just sounds gross. But in the meantime, Chucky's head just fucking spins full tilt around, exorcist style. And he says, "It ain't the size that counts, asshole. It's what you do with it." He's got a lot of pizzazz, this Chucky. I can see where Tiffany's obsession comes from. So he turns around. He pulls Damien's lip ring out and just blood fucking squirts everywhere. And he laughs maniacally as Tiffany licks on in admiration. And he proceeds to smother Damien with a pillow. And my question here is, how much does Chucky weigh? Why doesn't Damien buck him off of him? Chucky couldn't be more than a pound or two. Just head up, you know? It was an easy fix. Chucky and Tiffany proceed to have a conversation as fucking Damien dies right beneath him. And I do love this part because it feels oddly familiar. So, Chucky and Tiffany haven't seen each other in a very long time, 10 years, but they were in love, but it's been some time. And so there's a bit of like an awkwardness here.
Hi.
Hi.
How you been?
Okay.
And there's just like an odd sense of tension. It makes me think of like when you've been like talking to somebody on like a dating app for far too long, and then you meet up with them in person, and then it's like, this is weird because you know this person so well, but you don't. Like so much time has passed that like there's an oddness that you can't get past, and that's what this feels like.
I didn't feel any odd tension. I felt like a longing, at least from Tiffany's side. And I think for Chucky, I've been dead or passed for how long? I've been mangled, whatever, and now I'm like awake again. I'm finally in this situation once more, and then it turns into like, how you been? Like, it's been a while.
They have a back and forth. It's kind of a catch up, like, what are you doing with this jerk? And she says, well, 10 years is a long time, Chucky, and I was never actually with him. You know me. I'll kill anybody, but I'll only sleep with somebody that I love. Which is the strangest sentence, I think, in history. But they continue to go back and forth. He kind of fucking insults her and says, I'll be honest, Tiffany, I always thought you'd let yourself go, but you look great. And instead of being like, fuck you, she's just like, And it's I want to be like, you're a doll. Which time you talk about letting yourself go? You kidding? There is no more letting yourself go than that. But she's smitten kitten. She's been waiting for this for 10 years. She is in love with this dolly. He says, come here. So she goes over and she picks him up and she kisses him on the forehead, and they walk away like giggling. One another. He's funny. I love his movies.
It's stupid.
It's so stupid, but it's so fun. No?
It is.
I guess
It is.
Yes.
I'm on board for now.
Good. So
Yeah,
back on the
steamroll.
side of the road, the teens are being breathalyzed by Needle Nose when Warren pulls up. He and Jade get into kind of like a little squabble, a little fight, and he says, I'm not going to let you go with some trailer trash. To which Jesse responds, you fuck. And Warren says, but you won't. Not Jade, at least. Not anymore. Which is yowza. That is quite the comeback. He threatens him, tells him he's the chief of police. He can get away with whatever he wants. If something should show up in his car, or if his breathalyzer test should be a little off, nobody would question it. And he's just a prick. He's just a real prick, and he's a powerful prick. So he goes to take Jade away. He says to David, who was her original date,
you keep your orchid dry now, you hear? Come on, sunshine.
Which was really funny because he gave him the specific instructions about keeping it. I thought it was funny. You didn't get that? No?
Stupid.
I thought it was fucking funny as shit.
I like the you fuck, and also Jade saying bite me, which we should bring that back.
So back at the trailer, Tiffany and Chucky are talking. They're catching up. She tells him she still has the ring that he left her, and she's never taken it off. And he's like, what ring? Oh, the ring I stole. It's worth $5 or $6 grand. And she says, you mean you weren't going to propose? And he says, propose? What are you, fucking nuts? And then starts laughing maniacally. Fucking, she just brought you back from the dead, you fucker. Oh, this asshole. Terrible. And he doesn't pick up on that at all. So she kind of like looks away, and they do this great like split screen effect where like we see her face close up and him in the background like laughing, talking about himself. And he says, "First things first, we got to get me out of this body." And she says, "No, I think I prefer you like this. You're like a little baby." And she goes over to him and she like tickles him. It's just so demeaning, and I just love it so deeply. And then she kicks him into the playpen, locks him in there so he can't get out. He tries to backpedal and says, oh, okay, you're into this domestic thing. Okay, well, let's get hitched. Too late, buddy. You know, I mean, she's not into it anymore. You've hurt her feelings, obviously. And she says, "Sweet dreams, asshole." She goes to sleep next to Damien's dead body as she cries herself to sleep, and they like pan out in him in his like leather thong, and it's about the most demeaning death scene you could ever have.
I'm really glad that Tiff took back her power and was, set some boundaries, put everything into perspective. She realized this motherfucker's not going to change.
Yeah.
Who's clearly like, sounds like a old New Yorker. Like he has a different way of living and talking to women specifically, and I'm just glad that she's not just like a pushover. She definitely has a harder mentality. I think that she can be very like sweet and kind and whatever, even though she is a serial killer. And in this moment, she's like, absolutely not. Like, I have the power here. I brought you back. You're 2 feet tall. Get in this. I'm going to lock you in this little fence.
So the next day, we see Jesse washing his car, and we find out that him and Tiff live in the same trailer park. She is dragging a giant trunk out of her trailer that is filled with old Damien's body. Poor Damien. She sees him washing his car. He kind of tries to hide from her, but she's like, "Oh, Jesse, will you help me? Like, will you help me get this into my car?" So he comes over, begrudgingly, and he lifts this giant trailer with a human body in it into her trunk. They're kind of chatting back and forth. She invites him out for drinks. He says no, he's seen somebody. And she says, "Oh, all the good ones are taken." I love that while they're talking, we hear fucking Chucky just like screaming, "You fucking bitch! You let me out of here!" And he questioned, he's like, "What's that?"
Just babysitting. Foul-mouthed little fucker.
Jesse's unbothered. He's like, "Oh, yeah, okay." So they're just chatting back and forth. She says, take care of your girlfriend. My mom always said, if a girl's lucky enough to cook dinner for you, you should eat the dishes. And I don't know what that's setting up other than that Tiffany has this mentality of this like domestic, sweet, blissful life that could be.
She does this throughout the film. She does the endearing thing of saying like, my mother always used to say this, and it's character development for Tiffany ultimately. Like, she's learned a lot from her mother. It seems like they've had a bond, and it's humanizing her, but I just think it's hilarious that her character's killer.
So Jesse helps her with her trunk, gets it in the car for her. They have a little chat. She drives away. She comes back to the trailer, and she tells Chucky it's time he settles down. It's like, "Oh, great. I was thinking about..." And before he can even really say anything, she dumps a bridal doll into his little playpen. And says, "Oh, Chucky, she's beautiful." I love her characters so much. She's funny. He's like, "What?" Whatever. She walks away laughing, but on the bride doll, she made a very big mistake, and she put the engagement ring, or what she thought was an engagement ring, around a necklace on the doll. Chucky sees that, And he thinks, he takes it and he starts whittling away the bars, the wooden bars on his playpen so he can get out and invoke his revenge on Tiffany. Unbeknownst to her, she's taking a beautiful bath in her clawfoot tub. She's watching TV. She changed the channel to Bride of Frankenstein. And she's very moved by this movie. It's a love story, and she's watching it, and she's really connecting with it. She's got tears, running down her face. She's never.
She's got champagne in the bathroom.
Champagne. She's got a little bow on her head. I love her character so much. Unbeknownst to her, Mr. Chucky has broken out of his little playpen, and he's, rolling over to her, and I think he's trying to stab her. I don't know what his end game is, but it doesn't end up working out. But what he ends up doing is pushing the TV that she's watching into the bathtub, which electrocutes her.
Is that how electrocution works? Like if a TV went into the tub, that would happen?
I think a few people in movies have died that way that I've seen. I don't know if that would happen in real life if you would die that quickly, but she's dead it's like a dead.
Yeah.
And it's like very active death.
Yeah.
There's another one. Was it Adam's Family? Gomez. Not Gomez.
Fester. No.
Yeah, Uncle Fester. When he marries Debbie. She tries to kill him with like a radio or something.
Right. I just never knew if that was like believable. Like, would that happen in real life? I guess it would if it's electric.
I mean, I don't think people are being killed that way anymore, but I think it would probably still kill you the same. I don't think it's a fad anymore.
Yeah.
And I do think, just on a side note, this is very extreme reaction from fucking Chucky to do this. And it actually does piss me off pretty deeply that he would go to... She just brought you back. She spent 10 years finding you and bringing you back to life for you to do this shit to her just because she's a little mad at you. She would have let him out of the pen. I believe. I think she would have let him out eventually and everything would have been fine. So it's pretty fucked. That's men for you. So she dies. He kills her. He immediately grabs the bridal doll and he starts doing the ritual, which is to put Tiffany's soul inside the doll as revenge for her. So he does the whole thing, and nothing happens. And I do think it's funny. He's like, what a crock, which is exactly what Tiffany said. They're just a match made in heaven.
They are cut from the same cloth.
They are. I love their relationship. It is very toxic, but enjoyable. So nothing happens. He's like, oh. And then the doll all of a sudden comes to life. And he realized that his voodoo worked and her soul is inside the bridal doll. She's obviously pissed. Not pissed enough. If somebody put your soul inside of a doll, I mean, like, she's just like, you son of a bitch. I would be exploding. I would be losing my mind. And perhaps this isn't that weird. I mean, I guess they live in this world where her lover put his soul inside of a doll, and maybe this isn't such a weird revenge, but this seems extreme, and I'd be really fucking upset.
I think that she has just enough anger for Jennifer Tilly to be angry because it's comedy. And then I think we just start rolling the jokes. The back and forth between both of them is gold. I wouldn't marry you if you had the body of G.I. Joe. What? Stupid. It's stupid.
They have words. They get over it, I guess, because the next thing we know, she's reading the Voodoo for Dummies book and she's looking for a way to get out of the situation that she's in. And he's sitting on like a little counter and he said, look all you want. This is what we got to do. We got to get the heart of Damballa, which was an amulet that he was buried with. And that is what they need in order to transfer their souls to human bodies. There's no other way.
And we got to go to Hackensack, New Jersey.
That's a place. Is that a place?
It is. It is a place.
Is it a place close to where you used to live?
Not close to where I used to live, but it is a place. I love it.
So they're trying to figure out how to get there. They're dolls. They obviously can't drive. Who's going to touch the pedals? What are they going to do? So they devise a plan that Tiff is going to call her neighbor Jesse, try to convince him. So she calls him.
These dolls are very special.
What do you mean special?
I mean, there's $500 in it for you if you get them there by tomorrow.
He's thinking, he's like, and then he looks at a picture of Jade and he's like, make it 1,000, I'll do it. She's like, okay, sweet face, we'll be there, the money will be there. I don't know, I'm giving her a list. It's so hard to do her voice. It's so fucking hard. It's so like delicate and tender. It's very difficult.
Queen.
So Jesse is going to take these dolls to Hackensack, New Jersey for a certain fee. Then we get this just incredible montage of Miss Tiffany turning herself into Tiffany, turning the doll into Tiffany. We have Call Me by Blondie playing in the background as she's dyeing her hair with box dye and putting on her black lipstick and her purple eyeshadow and doing her little beauty mark. Honestly, my favorite part is her putting her foot into the tiny dock. Where did she find a mini Doc Martin? I don't know.
I thought the same thing, and even when she was piecing Chucky together, I was like, where does she have all these parts and pieces to like make this up? And you know what? I'm chalking it up to the fact that she is a doll collector, and so she's got all the stuff. She's got clothes for them.
That's
She's got
true. That's true.
you know?
I could see her having mini Doc Martens. It does bug me though, and I'm gonna say this once and I won't say it again.
Okay.
She has the blonde hair dye. Why does she have roots? Okay, that is a big factor of Tiffany. She's got these like really black dark roots and this like very bleached blonde hair. You know, if she dyed it from the root, you know what I mean? That's a plot hole. Nobody talks about it, and
Nobody talks about it.
It's
And you know
fine,
what?
and I won't say anything more about it. But I want to say, if she bleached her hair from the root, even if she
You know, not a lot of things make sense, especially dolls coming to life and having superhuman strength and being able to do things that dolls can't do. So I think we'll forgive the root for now. But you are absolutely right that nobody talks about it. Except here at Stoli Dolly Scaries, we talk about it.
You're right. Among other, there are many things that will come up later. You should have questions. I just want to say, as a bleacher for many years, I felt I needed to state my truth.
Yes.
And say that just wouldn't be the case. But regardless, she transforms herself into herself. Basically, she transforms this brown-haired doll into Tiffany. She lights up a cig. Another thing of how does that work? Okay? I think that is something to consider here with their doll lungs, and says, Barbie, eat your heart out. And Chucky looks on in just full admiration. He certainly has a chubby at this point. He is just like fully enamored with Miss Tiffany, which, rightfully so. She's done a miracle job on this doll. This is a different doll. It's gorgeous. They are sitting on the couch as Jesse comes in. He grabs them to put him in his van, and off he goes. We cut to Jade, who's talking to her frosted tip pal, David, about the love she feels for Jesse, and how do you know it's real, and how did you know when you were dating that guy, like blah blah. Fun note, Jade was supposed to be played by Julia Stiles. She dropped out for 10 Things I Hate About You.
Wow.
And I do feel like that was perhaps a good decision.
That's a good decision. I think the trajectory of Julia Stiles' life maybe would have been different, but
Yes. I
made the
only
right
feel
call.
that way because I wouldn't feel that way if it was just 10 Things I Hate About You, but the director of Save the Last Dance saw her in 10 Things I Hate About You. She does like at one point in the movie when she's really drunk, she does a dance on the table, and he saw that and thought, I don't know why he saw that and thought this, but he saw that and thought like potential for this movie for Save the Last Dance, and I do think that is what really like launched her career into the stratosphere. That I think of her, that is her movie. So Jade is talking to David about her relationship with Jesse as Jesse rolls up in his van. Why does he drive a van? Not
I
there's
think
anything wrong with vans, but I'm just thinking about this in this moment. I'm like, that's kind of an interesting thing for a 18-year-old, 17-year-old.
Yeah, I think van culture was a vibe at some point, but something about it seems like they got a deal on this van as maybe your first car, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it seems like maybe something to impress the ladies. Oh, come over to my RV instead of my house. And we could watch TV in my RV. Honestly, an RV sounds cooler and cooler the more I think about it.
An RV is very cool. I enjoy an RV. A van,
Well,
is not this.
you could do a bang up job with a van too. You got to have the right eye
Well,
for
in
that.
today's scape, yeah, people are transforming vans left and right. But in the 90s, nobody was transforming vans. This was just
No.
a van,
Yeah. It's not a pussy wagon.
It's not a pussy wagon. Although Jesse is very attractive. He's got a good
He's
haircut.
he's fine. Yeah, he's
Fine.
giving a little, yeah, the face is giving a little skeet.
I will. He's no skeet. He's no skeet. Come on, take that back. He's no skeet, but he's a fine young man.
He's a little
I'll
too
be honest.
chiseled.
He's
He's a little too hairless for my type.
He's not your type. I will say, I think I'm most attracted to Chucky because his personality is so vibrant. You know what I mean? Jesse is just like, Jesse, he doesn't have it. Chucky is so funny, and I love humor.
Well, let's
trumps
call
it
that
all.
out to all the viewers. Humor
Everything.
is the best quality.
Humor is the best quality, absolutely. So Jesse pulls up in his van. He jumps out, runs over to Jade. He professes his love for her and says, what are you doing the rest of your life? Let's get married.
Oh, to be young.
She says, what? You're crazy. What? Whatever. She eventually is like, of course. And they run into the house. Well, I do love this, that as they're talking about this, we see Chucky and Tiffany like, what a loser. Like, talking about them. He does like one of those motions about him, and it's just fucking hilarious. And that doesn't really matter at all, but
I think it's funny that he's just like, I got $500. We can have a whole new fresh start. $500.
Whoa, your life is made. I did, you know what? I did look up because I thought the same thing. I was like, how much is $500 in 1998 compared to today? $500 to today is $922. That's not going to give you a lot.
No. I know
it's more.
It's more. I know things were different then. Things were cheaper. I get it. But like a whole new fresh start? No. That's like a whole new fresh week.
And he's talking about putting her through college and stuff. He's like, I know you have big dreams.
No. They're going to, you know what he thought? We're going to be living out of this van down by the river. And you know what? It's going to be fine. We're going to make it. I'm going to get a job. We're going to figure it out. I don't know. For her to just be like, I'm on board.
That's love. They run into the house to go pack her bags. Fucking idiots. So as this is happening, again, the whole time they're cutting to Tiff and Chucky, and they're, Tiffany's like, oh my God, how romantic. Chucky responds, says, I give him 6 months, 3 if she gains weight. Fuck you. Anyway, cut to fucking John Ritter, who happens to be at the back of the van watching this whole thing go down. He's got a bag of marijuana in his hand that he's going to plant. In Sir Jesse's car to put him away for life. So he tries to open up the doors. It's not happening. All the doors are locked. He goes in to try to get a crowbar, something to open it up. And Chucky and Tiffany see all this go down. They're like, we got to devise a plan because he's going to come in. He's going to ruin everything. We got to get to Hackensack. So Chucky goes to pick up a knife. And Tiffany is like, stabbings went out of style with Bundy and blah, blah. And you got to be more creative. So they come up with this plan.
I appreciate it. I think that, like, people who watch horror movies then were just like, oh, another step, like, I think all of this is fanfare. It's like all the things that you want to see or you're asking for, and, do something different. Don't do what's already been done. And I feel like Tiffany is of the culture, of the era, of the give the kids what they want to see. So let's do something different. I liked it.
I'm glad.
I think it was a little bit of a mousetrap situation scenario.
It was a bit unlikely, which is fine. The whole movie is quite unlikely. I would say. So John Ritter comes back to the car. He opens it up to plant the marijuana, and he hears chuckling. He goes to investigate it. He's a cop. And he sees Tiffany in the front seat. He looks over, and they're like, I don't remember this. For some reason, this whole time, I thought this was a nail gun. I, very vaguely remember this scene. It's not a nail gun. They have, rigged all of these nails to fly at his face when Chucky pulls something. So,
which Tiffany, is it's the airbag deployment.
Is it the airbag deployment?
That's what I saw. That's what I thought.
I just knew he pulled something. So he comes up, he sees Tiffany. Tiffany says, "Now." Chucky pulls something, and all of these fucking nails fly at John Ritter's face and just stab him. It's pretty dark. I don't like this.
I love it. I love it.
I didn't like it. It was so 80s graphic to me. And not
so grotesque.
It's very grotesque. They get him. He's on the ground. And they see Jade and fucking Jesse about to run out of the house, and somehow she's mopping it with a little rag, and they stuff him into one of the bench seats in the van. And
these two dolls pick up a human man. No and way. Also, how do they get the airbag back in? There's a lot of buffoonery happening.
A lot of questions I have here. Yeah. Whatever. They get him in somehow, and Jesse and Jade come back to the van. They jump in.
They're off to the races. They get to this place called The Spot, which I love that name. The Spot, Mama, is where the kiddies are getting high and drinking until their heart's content. Until this cop, Norton, shows up to essentially search their car because he was told to do so by Warren before he bit the big one. While Chucky and Tiff are smoking in the back. They're just puffing that weed. They said, I see that baggie. Give me a hit. I do think it's interesting that they have lungs. Maybe all of the things are happening.
They don't have lungs. This kind of bugs me. Look, there's a few things that bug me. I mean, later on, when certain things happen and blood comes out of certain things, I'm like, what the fuck is happening? What is reality? What can we follow? They can't
There's
see
nothing to follow. It's leave it all up to the imagination.
Yeah.
And so they're stopped in their tracks now. Jesse says to Jade, like, why don't you just go get something to eat for us? And I'll deal with Needle Nose. So the cop goes into the van. He searches the car. He finds the drugs that were planted. And so he's trying to bust them. At this moment, Jesse can't do anything. Chucky, on the inside, starts improvising and gets a button-down shirt out of the back and does his little ticka 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 crawls on the sidewalk, which is hilarious.
It's so funny when they move. Those are my favorite parts when they move. Yeah.
So he gets a button-down shirt out of the back of the van and sticks it into the police officer's tailpipe and lights it on fire with the lighter that
Cool.
from
Yeah.
with the same lighter. So on his way crawling back, the lighter falls out of his pocket, and then we wait anxiously. In the crawling that Chucky does, he gives a nice stop and then gives a finger to one of the kiddos in the car who's maybe high or drunk or something and looks at him and he's just like, what the fuck? And says,
rude fucking doll.
I love that.
Who's fucking doll? Oh, I love that part. That's what I mean. I'm glad you referenced it. I wasn't sure if you would, but of course you would.
Of course. Chucky gets back into the van. We're waiting anxiously. Norton blows up, and Jade loses her groceries. She's coming out with the food that she got, and people are panicked because an explosion just happened. The explosion is kind of wild. Police bits everywhere. It's like 4 specific shots where like police chunks are falling onto things. It's like, it's chaos. It's pandemonium. People are running everywhere. Jade loses her groceries. They get into the car because they're like, oh, we got to get the fuck out of here. Because
and people are like kind of looking at them because earlier Jade had a scuttle with Mr. Needle Nose. She kind of pushed him. She pushed him. I don't know why she wasn't arrested. Maybe that's extreme. Maybe I'm just thinking of today's circumstances, but everybody's so sensitive. If you had pushed and made a scuttle like that today, you would be in big old trouble.
Yeah.
So
maybe because she's the chief of police niece or whatever.
Maybe
they know each other. They do know each other, but like maybe he's given a pass in that regards. Either way, they did have some words for each other.
Yes. So when they were driving away, as they were getting away, some girl came over and was like, "It was them, what?" And I was like, "Who the fuck are you? Come on, that would never happen." People only care about themselves. Nobody is doing that these days. It was them. Come on.
Who cares?
What happened? Get out of here, loser. Come on. No. No
She's
way.
got to, you know what? Give your statement to the police, right? Later. So Jesse and Jade, ugh, gross.
Oh, I love it. The double J's, straight squared.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Well, also, I just love the name Jade. I always wanted that name. Have you ever met a not cool Jade?
I don't even know if I have met a Jade. Oh, you know what? There was one on Teen Mom.
There you go.
But it was.
That does not prove my point.
I think it was Jayde, Jade.
Not cool.
Sorry, Jade. Jade from
same.
Team Mom 2 is coming after us for this episode. Oof.
It's Jade, like Jade. Like that's just such a cool. Maybe I'm just thinking of Mortal Kombat.
Oh my god, one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
Icon.
Jade.
Wins.
She doesn't look like a Jade though.
No.
She's not a Jade.
No.
That's like Storm. That's like a very powerful name.
Mm-hmm.
They should have named her like Kelly. You know?
Yeah.
Something
Or like Julia.
Yes.
Lauren.
Yes.
Something Rachel. I don't know.
Yes, Rachel would also go.
Either way, Jade and Jesse, they're arguing in the van a little bit about each other sort of having to do with the accident. There's a little bit of suspicion now, because why not?
Sure.
At first, I didn't know what the acting was or why they were acting weird towards each other.
It's very sudden.
Like for
that
like the first couple moments.
They get into the van and immediately they are suspicious of one another. I'm like, well, first of all, your relationship is shit. It is going nowhere if you think your significant other could be a murderer, but also just like, no, there's no also just that first point.
Yeah.
If you think your significant other is a murderer, you will most likely not be going anywhere.
I think if anything, it would be more suspicious on Jade's part because before he said, go get food, like, I'm going to take care of him.
Yeah.
So, like, that would be the only thing. But why is he suspecting her? Doesn't make any sense. And also, her, Catherine, God bless her, her acting is fine for a 19-year-old. She's at least giving some, like, facial expressions to tell me what. He's absolutely horrible, whoever this guy is. I'm sorry, Nick.
He looks really good, though.
And that's all he was used for in this film.
He looks really nice. He said something like that because when she gives her reasons for being suspicious of him, he says, "What'd you do with those groceries? You were like a long time." He says some shit like that. I'm like,
Okay, bro.
I don't know, buddy. That's not as strong, but okay.
I guess he didn't see her with the 2 bags full.
Full bags. Yeah, she threw them. But...
Dropped them.
Yeah.
One person walked by. She said, tossed. Meanwhile, David, their gay friend, who sees everything on the news, is trying to tell them that they found the lighter that was in the car at the scene of the crime, and that Warren, Jade's uncle, is missing. As the dolls laugh in the back seat.
That was really good. Wait, do that again. One more time.
I can't. I don't think I can. They start heading towards Niagara Falls.
Sure.
And cue the song Monster Magnet, See You in Hell. There's some good rock moments in here on that soundtrack.
There really is. Unexpectedly good rock, yeah.
I mean, some of them are not great, but it's like of the time. It just sets you in the right mood. I guess their suspicions go away or maybe dissipate because Jesse stops over to a wedding roadhouse and asks Jade if he trusts him. Slow blink.
I don't think they do. I have so many notes about this because it's so strange to me that they do this. Because it's not just on Jade's part. Like, he has suspicions about her and she has suspicions about, like, there's obviously a disconnect here, and I have no idea why he does this and makes such a point of being like, do you trust me? This is weird.
Let's pull the trigger.
Yeah. Like, oh, we're unsure about each other? Let's commit for life. It's weird. And it doesn't make no sense. And they both have, obviously, like, reservations during the ceremony. Like, there's hesitation on both their parts of being like, I do. So I don't know why he does this. What are you doing? No.
He has absolutely no character development. He's just a...
He's very good looking, though. He's very good looking. You keep missing that.
All right. We keep saying that. I'm going to say he's actually not good looking.
He's not the most good looking, but he is good looking.
So they go into the Roadhouse attraction to get married or whatever that's called. Something like
chapel?
that. The chapel. Go into the chapel and we're gonna drink. That's right, bitch. Drink it up, buttercup. So they go in to seemingly get married. Chucky in the car starts turning the radio stations to find something good to listen to and says, Jesus, the music scene's gone to hell since I've been dead. And then he finds a good track and he says, this is it. And he starts rocking out. Stupid. This doll. This doll rocking out. What am I watching? What am I watching? Tiff says she's always dreamed of a big church wedding, but envisioned not just her mugshot, but something really flattering in the newspaper. Sure. Of course. And then we get a little tender moment of Chucky finally saying, Tiff, I'm sorry for everything. And she says, I guess I can't complain. I always wanted to spend time together traveling and seeing the world, and well, look at us now. It's a true love story, right?
Yeah.
One of them says life is full of surprises, and then we get a jolt as Warren wakes up with the nails in his face out of the seat bench. They think, like, what are we going to do? We gotta do something, and Tiffany says to kill him, so he takes the knife finally and stabs him in the back multiple times to finish the job. And then he looks at the knife and says,
a true classic never goes out of style.
the kids actually get married. So they stay at the motel that's right next to the chapel as newlyweds. And they get to the room and they watch the chief on the news hinting at possible teens being suspects when a woman in lingerie barges into their room. Can I say, what is with these waterbeds?
All I put was, I miss waterbed.
Iconic. Waterbeds. I mean,
I love waterbeds. My Mima had a waterbed, but they are very out of style. And I think it's probably around this time that they went out of style. I think like late 90s was like their like point.
Listen,
but they are cool.
At least one person had a waterbed at some point.
Did you know anybody with a waterbed?
Oh, I
Did you have
absolutely.
fun on a waterbed?
I absolutely know people with waterbeds from the past.
Yeah.
Famously, my bestie Amanda had a waterbed in which I stayed in. Here's the real thing. Have you ever stayed in a waterbed? You ever slept in one?
Yeah.
As an adult, as a teen, as a what?
13. I think they're 13.
I will say this, not comfortable. Absolutely not.
No.
Fun? Yes. Comfortable? Yeah. No.
I mean,
sleeping on the sea?
Because you're like floating.
Sleeping on the sea? Yeah, that's everyone's fantasy. You want to be on a ship at sea. You want to be like wading in the water. Yeah. Cool. And then once you try it once, you don't need to ever again.
You know what? Logistically, it is not fun. But in my mind, oh my God, I miss it.
In my mind. You know what I will say? Maybe the motion of the ocean, if we're talking about the act.
That too. That's what I'm thinking of.
Work.
I've never done the act on it. I was a child.
Me either. Yeah.
But could it be fun? I think it could be fun. It's a long time. But their honeymoon suite, I will say that. Their honeymoon suite looks fucking cool. This is a very big room. It is a heart-shaped water bed with like a canopy.
Cute.
Like very tiny TV.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who made that decision, but it's cool.
In the 90s, maybe, I don't know what they had. Antennas were popping out of things. Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay, so this woman that comes in, she bursts through and she bursts into the room and she's in lingerie.
Yeah. I hate
and
it.
Her and her husband are obviously ready to get busy because they just got married too. So, but they are, the acting is over the top. They both like lay down on the bed, and then she goes over to the dolls and screams, "Oh, Russ, look, have you ever seen anything so cute in your whole life?" She's beautiful. And she's talking about Tiffany. And she looks at Chucky and says, oh. Picks him up and says, well, this little guy has a face only a mother could love. And Chucky speaks in his doll voice and says, hi, I'm Chucky, and I wouldn't talk if I were you. Heidi-ho. Which, thank you for doing that, because this brings us back to the originals. You know, like, part of the scariness is, like, it is a doll.
Right.
And, like, you don't really see the like creepiness of it coming to life until like specific scenes of the old ones. And so that to me was like, yes, fanfare.
Yeah.
And Russ, who is her new husband, says they were programmed to say all kinds of shit. And she says, well, I don't like him at all. And like tosses him down. Yeah. And then the couple starts to like hit on both of them as sort of a divergent tactic to steal their wallet and take their measly $500. And the kids sort of get the couple to leave without knowing they were robbed. Tiff.
Look,
yeah.
I don't think a big enough deal is made about somebody barging into your hotel room and jumping on your bed. They're just like, hey, what are you doing here? This isn't. I'd be like, what the fuck? Like
get the fuck out.
Like, it would be a very big deal. And they are so like lackadaisical about it. Like, what are you doing here? Like, hey, come on.
You know what? These kids probably don't know right from left. This is their first time staying in a motel. They don't know.
That is true. Yeah.
You know. Either way, Tiff sees it all go down and says, that thieving slut, she doesn't deserve to wear that ring. Which is very on par for Tiff. Mm-hmm. Then we cut to the couple's room that just robbed our kids, and they're having a minor discussion before they start to make out and get busy. Tiff, our girly, enters the room and runs across the screen, which is, I love. Just a...
It's so good. Them running is just the best. It's
just their little
quick.
Legs.
So quick. Yeah.
They just got little legs.
Yeah.
Tiff goes over and grabs a champagne bottle. There's a big mirror above their waterbed, and this woman sees the doll, and then Tiff throws the champagne bottle at the glass mirror above their bed. It shatters into a million pieces, and large pieces start falling from the ceiling and onto them. And it's like, I wonder if they had like 3D at this time, because it felt very much like coming at the camera in that space. But also, you know, you see shards cutting the waterbed. You see it going through their skin in multiple different ways.
I feel like that's pretty unlikely. That was extreme.
Extreme.
No?
Yeah, it was like a Final Destination.
Sort of yes, it was so Final Destination. Like, it was such an extreme case of that situation. If it were to happen, like, they would be cut for certain. Maybe there would be a cut in the waterbed, but the way that they shot it, just it was like knives coming down on these human bodies.
Either way, Chucky watches Tiff with this amazing kill and looks at her and says, I love you. They're like in front of the fireplace. Chucky picks up the ring of the woman who got murdered a minute ago, and her finger is on the floor with the wedding ring attached to it. And he picks it up off the ground and he proposes with it. It has to, this whole thing has to be one of the funniest scenes of the movie.
Him trying to get the ring off her finger is just, it's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous scene. Yeah.
So he finally gets it off and places it on Tiff's thumb, which is probably maybe the biggest finger on her, even though they're all the same. She starts crying. And he says, why are you crying? And she says, I always cry at weddings. Oh my God, I'm crying. I wonder if all the plumbing works. He says, well, I don't know about you, but I'm starting to feel like Pinocchio here. Dirty. And then he says, oh, I am anatomically correct, you know. And they shoot a scene where these two dolls are undressing themselves. There is a naked doll butt.
But
They're using tongues to make out.
I don't like that. Like that really bugs me. The fact that these like fully doll bodies have like human tongues coming out, touching each other. Nothing else bothers me. The reveal of the doll butt does not bother me. The simulation of the sex and him saying, "I'm all rubber baby," none of that bothers me. Like the tongues coming out sporadically, that does bug me.
You know,
Where's that tongue coming from?
I feel like I must have seen this movie in theaters, and I feel like I remember this happening and the whole crowd just going like, oh my God, wow.
I'm so jealous. I would have died to see this in theater.
We get to see their bodies banging in silhouette fashion against the motel wall.
It is actually really so well done. The way that they decided to go about this, I enjoyed.
I mean,
it
this
immensely.
is an iconic return to form in most movies when you just see silhouettes on the wall, giving it to each other. And Tiff says, "Oh wait, have you got a rubber?" He says, "Have I got a rubber? Tiff, look at me, I'm all rubber." She said, "Oh, that's right. Wait, I thought you were plastic." The back and forth is comedic genius, and you know, like has anyone ever done it? You know, like kudos.
Yeah.
You have shocked the world. Meanwhile, our newlyweds are in the other room questioning their decisions, finally. And they both sort of simultaneously call David to like ask him for advice. And David, the reasonable gay man, best friend, says, I don't agree with this. You both have to go to the police. I don't think that's it. The next scene is just perfect. We get a housekeeper, Miss Kathy Najimy. Please and thank you. She goes into the room. She says, hello, is anyone here? It's a joy to be here. She's getting all of her equipment ready to start doing a deep clean. And she gets her spray out and she turns and looks and starts going at it, but screams because she finds the dead couple laying there in the bed. And I'm so glad we get to see it. I want to see these shards of glass sticking out of these peeps.
Of course you do. Oof.
And honestly, Miss Najimy is looking fierce as a maid.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Click, click.
I agree.
The kids realize that a murder has just happened and they fucking hightail it out of there with the dolls in hand. They bring it. But Jade says immediately, she gets in the passenger seat and she says she can't do. She can't go and she can't do it anymore. Like, we're avoiding the obvious. And he agrees because they are both suspicious of each other. So, oh, it's a true marriage.
I think you are underlying the fact that because Katherine Heigl says, like, I can't do it. And he says, oh, God, I'm so glad you said it first. And she's like, why are you saying it first? You're the murderer. These are fucking babies. Babies. I hate
Children.
them. I hate them so deeply.
Kids.
Deeply. They're children.
Our superhero gay shows up unannounced, knocks on the window, bangs on the glass. Let's go. he gets in the van and he goes over, the process. He's heard from both of them, and he says, well, it's only up to three things. Either one of you is lying, both of you are wacko, or both of you are wrong. So my conclusion is that we have a terrible misunderstanding here. And the meanwhile, he says, do you smell something in here? And he opens the seat bench because the smell is coming from somewhere. And he finds Warren dead in the back seat. And he then gets suspicious of the two kiddos. So he grabs the gun from Warren's body and he turns it on them. And he's like, don't come near me, whatever. He's freaked out. So they pull over and he gets out of the back door of the van. And a cop car sees him and he's like, over here, like, come help me, because he's freaked the fuck out that there's a dead body. In this moment, the dolls wake up and they have two guns pointed at David and say, nobody move. Everyone is stunned because this is the first time that we're seeing the dolls in real life, or at least the kiddos are.
And you know what? To be honest, they don't have a big enough reaction in my eyes. They're kind of like, oh, whoa.
I would have just started full bolting out of the back of the car. Like, what the fuck?
My pants. I would have peed my actual pants.
My knee-jerk reaction probably would have just been like, right in the Chucky's face. Like, holy shit. It is kind of scary that there's two of them as well. Yeah. So, like, they're scurriers. We've seen it. Either way, David is on the street in the back of the van. He starts to shift sideways to get out of view. And then a big old fucking four-wheeler comes and smacks him, and his body explodes on contact. Like, honestly, it's also kind of Final Destination-y in the sort of way that it's done. His death is done well. But honestly, poor David. Poor guy.
He got fucked. Honestly, not more than Damien. Nobody got fucked more than Damien.
Damien didn't even get fucked. He got royally fucked. Damn. The dolls say, well, let's get the fuck moving. We gotta go. We gotta get to Hackensack, baby. So Chucky opens up the back of the van, shoots the cop car to stop them, and we get a beautiful Welcome to New Jersey sign. Oh, the Garden State. Love it.
Lovely.
Then we get a little dialogue between the dolls holding them at gunpoint, saying, let's go. Chucky's in the passenger seat and says, I imagine at this point you two must have a lot of questions. And he says, what are you going to do with us? Then I think Tiffany takes over. Well, these bodies are okay, but they're like apartments that we're just renting. But we're moving on up. And we're looking to buy. And then Chucky comes in, and you know what they say about real estate. Location, location, location. Well, you guys are definitely at the right place at the wrong time. Something like that. On the radio in the van, they hear that the two crimes have been linked to Charles Lee Ray. So they are exhuming his body from the cemetery.
Right, and they're Tiffany says out about that, right? Because they need the amulet. The amulet. Yeah.
The amulet. And she says, well, Chucky, the heart of Damballa. What do we do? What do we do? And he says, shut up and let me think. He suggests first they need to get new wheels because everyone in a 500-mile radius is going to know that that's what they're driving after the scene that just happened. And then we get to a spot where, Tiff is doing the most. She is dressing up Jade, who is now tied in a rope behind her back. And I don't know how any of this happened. The two dolls tied them up somehow. So Tiffany is dressing up Jade, and she's, putting all the makeup on her, saying, oh, I'm going to, love to be you and all this stuff. At the same time, she's also cooking Swedish meatballs and baking cookies. Like, she's doing the most. And I kind of love to see it. I would love for a Swedish meatball right now. Chucky, after all the food has been happening, Tiffany gives him some Swedish meatballs in the passenger seat, and they're giving complimentary things to each other. Well, nobody makes it like you, babe. And she says, I hope you save some for dessert, Pookie, and all this stuff and whatnot. Jesse somehow, I think that he remembers the phrase that Tiffany and had him earlier, that they had
had to,
earlier in the film. But looking in the rear view, sees dirty dishes. And this is the best thing he could have ever done in this film was say that, yeah, but she's not much of a housekeeper, is she? And Chucky falls for it and says, Tiff, those dishes aren't going to wash themselves, are they? She loses her noodle.
She does lose her noodle because Jade picks up on what Jesse is trying to do. He's trying to fuck this whole thing up. And so she turns to Tiffany and says, you cooked this whole meal. The least he could do is the dishes. And so she kind of squabbles with him. And they have a tete-a-tete. And in that moment where she is distracted, I don't like this. She somehow pushes her into the fucking oven and locks her in.
They scream. He just knocks Chucky right out the window. Yeah. And then there goes the RV right off the cliff. They probably spent a lot of the budget on this fucking scene.
This last scene is actually very epic. There's a lot
on all the vehicles.
Down. Yeah.
So, the RV is trash. There's a gas leak. Everybody's down. It's a true, we got to save ourselves moment for Jade and Jesse. Then Tiffany pops out of the oven. She's been baked, mama.
Yeah. She looks terrible. Girl. She's not doing well.
She's cooked.
Yeah. Beyond.
No. And so she shows up while Jesse is trying to cut her out of the chair. And it's a big old thing. Jade gets out and Chucky holds her at gunpoint. Then the RV explodes. That's where all the budget went. This big old explosion. So finally, Jesse is growing a pair. And he's ready to shoot Tiff, but sees Jade going across the bridge with Chucky in hand because he's holding her at gunpoint. So there's this.
So funny.
And then I love when he's running with Tiffany, like by her hair, and she's just like. So they finally get to the cemetery because Chucky ultimately has to get the souls out of the doll. They got the body preparing to be exhumed. Chucky urges Jade to go into the coffin site and open it up.
Urges. He holds her at gunpoint and tells her to go in. She opens it up and there it is, the amulet. She takes it off of him and
tosses it up.
Throws it up.
So there's a standoff and Jesse is holding the gun to Tiffany and he says, let her go. And so Jade, like Chucky says, fine, whatever, I'll give you her first. And he lets Tiffany go. At the same time, Jade and Jesse embrace. Then Chucky pulls a knife out of his pant pocket and wings it at Jade. But they turn around, Jesse sees it, and he gets stuck in the back with the knife. So Chucky's playing dirty. He picks up a gun and says, it's showtime. So they tie them up again and put them closer to the grave. And then Chucky performs the
voodoo spell, yeah.
The voodoo spell. And Tiffany goes up to him and she says, I love you, Chucky. And he says, I know. They kiss and she pulls the knife out of his trousers and sticks him in the back. Which is, I wasn't seeing it coming.
You
honestly.
weren't?
When I first saw it.
Oh.
Or when I second rewatched it. Whatever that is. He falls to the ground. He's groaning. Why? And she says her soliloquy of, oh, Chucky, look at us. Don't you see? We belong dead. He says, goodbye, darling. She says, I'll see you in hell. And he nods off, closes his eyes. Meanwhile, Jade breaks out of the rope that they were tied behind or tied together with, rather, and they embrace, thinking that it's all going to be over. Tiffany is just looking at them in love, and then whack, gets a fucking shovel right to the back of the head. Then the fight ensues, Tiffany against Chucky, and she throws dirt in his eyes, and they're having a full-on shovel fight. She bites his finger. It's a war zone here at the cemetery in Hackensack, New Jersey. When finally she gets bludgeoned by a shovel one more time, she pops up, starts choking him. This is great. But he does ultimately find the knife and sticks it through Tiffany. She says, my mother always told me love would set me free. And he says, get off my knife. Oof. And she goes down. Tiff, all crisped out. Jesse comes to Tiff's rescue and knocks him, Chucky, into the grave.
Yeah.
And Jesse pulls up the ladder so he can't get out. And finally, the chief shows up. He's like, put your guns down and whatever. And then he sees Chucky in the grave fucking slashing at the wall trying to get out. And he is bewildered.
But accepting. And I do like that he's not like, oh, this is some
He's like,
crazy.
oh, shit.
Like, he's like, what the? Okay. I know exactly what this is. And I will call this in so that you are not in trouble. And I dig that. That's very nice.
We love to see it. Finally, some help. Yeah. But Miss Jade has the gun now, and she says, don't move. And he says, go ahead and shoot. I'll be back. I always come back. And then in his final statement says, yeah, but dying is such a bitch. And then a couple times through the abdomen, and he falls next to his human corpse. And the chief says, no one's ever going to believe us. He tells them to go home and stay put. The police chief sees Tiff crisped and goes over to her. First, he checks to see if she's alive 4 times by just like pushing her.
Yeah, touching her way too many times.
She wakes up screaming. And he says, holy shit, son of a bitch. And she is wailing in agony. Miss Tiff, crisped out, is squirming in the hay. And there's something moving under her skirt. And holy shit, blood spurts out into his face. He's screaming. He doesn't understand what's happening. Tiff dies the moment that little baby Chucky comes out. And it's this squirming, nasty-ass little doll of a baby with some teeth, and then comes right up at the chief's face. And then end credits. Damn.
Beautiful ending.
Beautiful ending.
Beautiful movie.
For a wackadoo movie.
So here at Stoly Dolly Scaries, we like to rate our movies on how many Stoly Dollies it would take you to enjoy the film. And Johnny, how many Stoly Dollies would it take you to enjoy the film?
We're going to get into it. So, I first watched this when I was 11 years old, probably. I rewatched this now as a full-grown adult. And going into this episode, I was like, it's clearly a 3 for me.
Oh,
it was a 3 for me, and there was a lot of things that added up to it. But upon discussing it with you, and this is the beauty of this pod, is that we get to dive into things and analogies and harken backs to time and the music all tied together, that I will now rate this a 2, because I do feel like this I said at the beginning of the pod, this is not my forte. I really like a horror movie that is going to scare the living shit out of me. I want a new idea. But here's the thing. What they did for the time was iconic, because what they did is they made a scene where two dolls were fucking each other, and that was but also Jennifer Tilly is the reason why we watch this movie.
Yeah.
She is the reason why everything is happening. She is the Bride of Chucky, and for that reason I'll give it a 2 Stoli Dolis.
I say a 2. The first time I watched this movie, I saw it for what it was, and that it was a fun, campy, silly horror movie that was actually scary at points. Not the whole thing. Like it is a very much a movie for you. You take it for what it is. It is what it is. I love it. It's a great film.
I'm shooketh that you gave it a 2 based off of your love for the
I
movie.
do love it, but I know what it is. I love it, but I know what it's worth.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us. We love it so much when you join us, and we appreciate it. We love talking to you. If you like us, please please subscribe. We really do appreciate it so much. It helps us so much. And until then,
Don't go to Hackensack, New Jersey. What can I do? Oh.
how are you getting them and I'm not getting any? I'm very annoyed. What the hell is this? I feel like it's a competition all of a sudden.
Giddy up. You ready?
This is